What's going on, you guys? It's your boy Patrick, aka Addicted to Combat, back for another week of Best Bets and Props, where I go over all of my betting action for this weekend's UFC card, which is UFC Vegas 80. We've got Grant Dawson taking on the very well-respected and well-experienced Bobby Green at lightweight. Potentially 5 rounds of action there. And it's a pretty good co-main event as well. Joe Pyfer taking on Abdul Razak Al Hassan. I see a lot of violence on this card, and I see a lot of really close matchups as well. Some of these money lines we're going to speak about in this video are actually flipped. You know, the underdog became the favorite and vice versa in some of these spots. So can't wait to break into this one. It should be a pretty quick video. 11 fights in this card remain. Check out my full card breakdown from earlier this week for all details on all fights and predictions. I'm just going to be going over the 4 money lines and about the same number of props that I have bet on this one. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. We'll dive into this. The first money line is at flyweight in the first prelim. Montana De La Rosa I am taking to win over JJ Aldridge. This is one of those spots where she was the underdog, and now De La Rosa is the slight favorite, and I was late to the party on that one. I got minus 130 for just 1 unit of wager on this one. I like Montana De La Rosa's wrestling, her size in this matchup, and I think her striking is not that bad at range. It'll be serviceable as long as she just, you know, sticks on the outside and stays safe against JJ Aldridge, who I consider to be the more technical striker and has more output and volume there if this were to remain a kickboxing match. But I think it's going to be De La Rosa quickly closing that distance, getting the fight either against the cage to wrestle and gain control time there, or take it to the mat and potentially get that submission. So, yeah, minus 130 on De La Rosa's money line, 1 unit wagered there at flyweight. Moving along the card to another female fight, I do have Karolina Kovalchuk to defeat Diana Belbita. Now, this money line came down in the past day. Kovalchuk moved from around a minus 160, now down to minus 131, which is where I took her for 1 unit to defeat Diana Belbita. The only thing I don't like in this matchup for Karolina is her age. You know, she's 37 years old at women's 115. I don't like that, but everything else about this matchup I like for Karolina. Much higher level of competition faced, higher level of experience, a long career in the UFC so far, and she's on a 3-fight winning streak, bucking that 5-fight losing streak she was on last year. Now, I think her striking technically is way better than Diana Belbita's. You can give Diana Belbita the statistics as far as the output goes, but she's getting hit very, very much in return as well. Very little defense for the striking of Belbita, and very little wrestling defense either. It doesn't take much to take her down, and we've been seeing Karolina employ more of a grappling game plan in some of her recent fights. So I could see Karolina probably easily cruising to a decision in this one, just doing the better work on the feet. She is capable of putting up over triple-digit significant strikes as well, as we saw in her last fight against Demopolis. So, yeah, give me Karolina 1 unit of investment at minus 131. Not going crazy on investing a lot in this fight just because, again, she is a 37-year-old strawweight, and things usually don't get much better as you go up in age in this weight class. But another money line that has recently switched from a slight favorite to a slight underdog now. At featherweight, I am taking Bill Algeo to defeat Alexander Hernandez. I got minus 132 for 1.5 units down on Bill Algeo, but now he's all the way up at plus 115 as the slight underdog on BetOnline. So you can get a much better price. You know, it's going to be a sweaty first round. Alexander Hernandez, probably the more talented guy, the more explosive guy early in the fight, but he's a guy who tends to fade as the fight goes. Multiple times, Alexander Hernandez has started off strong and then given it up in round 2 or round 3. Mostly round 2s. He folds pretty quickly, especially if he's forced to, you know, he's chasing a finish in round 1. He doesn't get it. He's gassed out in round 2. If he's forced to grapple or deal with a pressure forward striker like Bill Algeo is at times, I feel like he's going to, really be worn out in the later parts of this fight. So never is my money going to go on a guy who gets worse as the fight goes on. And Bill Algeo he's been proven to be pretty durable, you know. So even though his hands are down more than I like, and he has that kind of pseudo karate base style to his striking, as soon as he closes distance and gets his hand around the waist of Hernandez, especially round 2, round 3, I think he grounds this fight and uses his far superior jiu-jitsu here to get the finish. So I do also have a 1/4 unit on Bill Algeo to win in round 2 and round 3 at plus 800 and plus 1200 respectively. You can get greedy and add the submission onto those too, but with a guy who folds and has the poor cardio and resolve of Alexander Hernandez, it wouldn't surprise me if Algio just gets the TKO stoppage. So I just want to cover both sides, just playing that round 2 and round 3 in general there. So those 3 money lines I do like quite a bit. The next one, I got to be honest with you guys, I don't like a whole lot the more I've looked into this fight, but I did place a half-unit bet on Alex Morono to defeat Joaquin Buckley at welterweight at plus 168 odds. On BetOnline, I believe that price has gone down just a tiny bit. We're looking at plus 150 for Morono currently. I just have a half of a unit on this. I intended to put Morono by decision for another half of a unit, which is sitting around plus 300. But actually plus 350 for Morono by points on BetOnline. I'm looking at it right now. But I'm not going to do that. You know, I like the prop, and if he does win, I think it is likely by decision. But, man, I just really see Buckley as such a dangerous explosive striker. It's only going to take one moment for Buckley to get the finish here, and it's going to be a scary proposition. So I don't want too much invested on here. I got the half unit down on Morono, who I think will be winning up until he loses, which is why I like it in principle, right? Like the same reason why I'm afraid of this money line is the same reason why I like it, and I think it's the mathematical value side. I think this fight could be 50-50. That should be a pick-em price tag in my opinion. Does Buckley get that knockout, get that flashy KO, or does he not? And if he doesn't, I think Morono uses his better footwork and his crafty high-output striking and experience to just dance all over him and win the minutes in this fight. He's not a guy who wrestles a whole lot, Morono, but he's a guy with much better jiu-jitsu than Joaquin Buckley. So I think he's a well-rounded guy. I wish he would wrestle more in this spot, but even striking at distance, if he just avoids that one big power kick or power punch of Buckley, I think he's good to steal this one. And sometimes you see these guys like Buckley who know they've got highlight reel potential. Sometimes they become the headhunter and they let the fight slip away. So that's what I see happening. But man, is this going to be a sweat, even for only a half of a unit on Alex Morono. So those are the 4 money lines I have. I mentioned the 2 props, Bill Algio round 2 and round 3 for quarter unit sprinkles there. I also have 1 unit on Drew Dober to defeat Ricky Glenn. Inside the distance at minus 175, just 1 unit on that. I think Dober gets the knockout, but when this dropped in BetOnline, it was minus 175 for inside the distance and knockout. So I said, why not cover myself just in case that, 0.01% chance, he knocks him down and grabs up a neck or something. But you can still get minus 175 on the KO on DraftKings. I think Dober inside the distance is at minus 200. So if you want to play it safe like I did, you pay the extra cost there. But I think we're going to be safe with the knockout. Ricky Glenn just got knocked out by Christos Giagos in his last fight. And frankly, he's been looking very much past his prime for a long time. He's a guy who took a lot more fight miles and damage in his career back in World Series of Fighting and in the UFC. More than his age would indicate. Ricky Glenn's been a professional since like 2006. And a guy who's always relied on his chin, sort of like Drew Dober does, but I think Ricky Glenn is way far past his prime. He's much slower and does not have that same knockout power that Drew Dober has. And Dober's got some added motivation. He's a recent father, and he also is chasing that first place for most knockouts in the lightweight division. He's tied with Poirier right now. If he gets this knockout on Ricky Glenn, he will be in first place in the division. So massive power, great durability, and great output and cardio. Give me Drew Dober inside the distance for 1 unit there. Last one, I also took Grant Dawson in the main event to win inside the distance at minus 135. 1 unit invested only on that one to defeat Bobby Green at lightweight. It's going to be a battle between the wrestling success and the submission success of Grant Dawson and, the high output and high cardio pace of the striking of Bobby Green, who's a very loose, relaxed counter striker with a lot of experience. He's been pretty durable throughout his career, but he has been cracked a few times. In fact, Drew Dober, who we just spoke about, is the guy who knocked him out either earlier this year or late last year. But either way, he can be put out. He carries his hands pretty low, so even a guy like Grant Dawson with improving striking as a wrestler, I think he will even have his moments on the feet before he level changes, just because Bobby Green tends to keep fights close, kind of play to the level of his opponent, showboat a bit. And I think he's going to be so worried about the takedown that Grant Dawson could have some success in the striking. But I think it's not going to take very long or very many attempts for Grant Dawson to take Bobby Green to the mat. And, early in the round, if he gets him down, he might have, 3.5, 4 minutes of time to lock in that body triangle. He's very good at locking in and fishing for a rear naked choke, which he's gotten several of on his record. So I foresee a Grant Dawson submission by round 2, 3, or maybe even 4. But I don't see this going to the scorecards for Grant Dawson. I think he's going to have plenty of time to wear down Bobby Green and get that submission. So give me Grant Dawson here, the much younger man, the fresher man, and the guy with a lot more upside here. So minus 135, Dawson inside the distance for 1 unit there. That is all of my betting action, the 4 money lines and the 4 props. Just some miscellaneous props that I do like. The last female fight that we did not talk about is Kanako Murata making her return against Vanessa Demopoulos. Murata, a very good judo player, but an even better wrestler so far in the UFC. She's coming off a long layoff, and she's like a minus 300 favorite here. But playing her submission at plus 550, kind of like I spoke about with Grant Dawson and Bobby Green, I just think even better in this fight, Murata is strong enough and technical enough to get that takedown very early in the round. And I think she'll rack up a lot of control time over Vanessa Demopoulos, who's going to be eager to play jiu-jitsu off of her back. She does have some crafty armbar wins, some triangle choke wins and things like that off of her back. So she knows that that's going to be her realm to possibly get a submission off of her back here. But Kanako Murata goes for submissions as well. You saw that Ronda Marcos fight in her debut. She had like 10 minutes of control time, and at the end of the fight, she was pretty close to locking in a Darce choke or north-south there. So she does go for submissions. I think she'll have plenty of opportunity to wear down Demopoulos and potentially score that plus 550 submission prop. But a safer one than that, I like Felipe Lins versus Ian Kuntalaba to finish under 1.5 rounds. That's at minus 160. That fits right into the skill set of both guys here. Ian Kuntalaba, he's had like, I want to say 12 to 15 fights that have ended by stoppage. They've all been under 1.5 rounds. Felipe Lins is a former heavyweight and just a monster of a power puncher. He's gotten really fast finishes too. Even though he's the much older man here, I think he pulls this off as the underdog in this spot, and I can't see Ian Kuntalaba lasting to the scorecards in this one, unless he's having a lot of success with the wrestling and can just stall Felipe Lins against the cage and possibly take him down. I see him wearing himself out if he even tries. He's going to be trying to hold down a much bigger man than Felipe Lins, like I said, former heavyweight. And usually Ian Kuntalaba starts off really hot, and he could get the finish, or he's going to start off hot, and then he wears himself out and makes a mistake come early round 2. I think this does cash the under 1.5. So awesome fight, though. I'm looking very much forward to Felipe Lins versus Kuntalaba, 2 guys I do like. Joe Pyfer to beat Abdul Razak Al Hassan by submission at plus 550. I think it's a sneaky way to play Joe Pyfer and get a plus 550 number instead of his like minus 400 money line. Where's that at now? Minus 365 to minus 425 on most sports books for Joe Pyfer. Look, I mean, he's got grappling upside. He's got the BJJ credentials here against Al Hassan, and he's a guy who is proven to have knockout power as well. I think he's the more technically sound striker. He's going to have a size advantage, a youth advantage. I mean, what's not to like about Joe Pyfer in this matchup other than his lack of UFC experience? But Abdul Razak Al Hassan is a guy who, if he doesn't get the knockout in round 1 or early round 2, he goes on to lose the fight. He does not have any decision wins. So, yeah, I got to take Joe Pyfer to win this fight pretty confidently. But, yeah, again, switching that money line from minus 400 to plus 550, just taking that poke on the submission where I think he's got the greatest strength advantage there. So, taking down Al Hassan is not something that has proven to be too difficult for most people. Even a kickboxer like Munir Lazes was able to take him off of his feet. I think Joe Pyfer will do the same and possibly lock up that choke on the mat. So, speaking of submissions, I already mentioned the Bill Algeo round 2, round 3 is what I played. But if you want to multiply those round 2, round 3 and add the submission onto those, Algeo submission 2 is plus 1,400. Algeo submission 3 plus 2,200. Not bad numbers for somebody with a BJJ black belt and as credentialed as Bill Algeo against the guy in Hernandez who folds in round 2 and round 3 as we mentioned. So those ones you could multiply as well if you want to be a little bit less safe than I played it. So the last thing I have written down that I do like is a value play, but I was too scared to play it myself. Playing Nate Maness at flyweight to defeat Mateusz Mendonça. I just can't help but think that the plus 200 on Nate Maness is the value side of this bet. Now, I'm just not confident enough in him winning to actually put my money on this one. But if you're a value player, if you want to play what the mathematical side is, I think he is. We're seeing Mateusz Mendonça who's 0-1 in the UFC, a young guy with very little high-level experience at 24 years old. He's minus 250, the favorite here. I just don't see why he should be such a big favorite over Nate Maness, who's got a size advantage at this weight class and has, I think, equal power in the hands and hand speed as well. So Mendonça has proven to be, a pretty well-rounded guy who's able to score takedowns in a lot of fights. He does have really good flash knockout power as well, but he's a small flyweight compared to Nate Maness, who's trying to be a weight bully come Saturday. So I got to go with the experience of Nate Maness, the size and things like that. I just think that this is a spot where the money line is very down on Nate Maness on a 2-fight losing streak, and Mateus Mendonça maybe getting some respect for being with Team Shoot to Box. So Nate Maness, I think, is the money, the value side there on that money line, but too scared to play it myself, and he probably will look like death on the scales tomorrow. So hit me in the comments with your best bets and favorite props for this fight card. UFC Vegas 80, Dawson versus Green. I'd love to hear where you guys' heads are at. I think there's a lot of arguments for either side of a lot of these fights, so it's a fun one to discuss this week. Can't wait to watch it on Saturday. I think it's an early fight card at maybe 3 p.m. Central Time, so check out our live stream. Myself, Johnny K. Picks, and Cody from Blood Money MMA Bets will be going live on Saturday 2 hours before the fight start to talk. It'll be on Cody or Johnny's channel for this rotation, I believe. Maybe Blood Money, but check our Twitters, follow all three of us, and we'll be talking fights with you guys and final betting action come Saturday. So hit the like, hit the subscribe. I'll talk to you guys next time. Cheers.